What is up, everyone? I am still, there we are. I have figured it out. I'm changing things up, as you can see here at the No Hope for the Nate / local band Smokeout Canada stream. I hope you are all having a fantastic Tuesday. We have a dope guest on. We have Stu Dog of Dead Rights joining us in about 45 minutes.
His name is
yes, it works. So my guest, Stu Dog of Dead Rights, the drummer. It's going to be a good time. He's going to be joining us in about 40 minutes. It'll be a solid time. I'm very excited to have him on. Another guest that Devin has set up for us. And it's always a good time hearing from people from the island scene and from the Vancouver scene and from that area. You know, it gives a nice little perspective to those of us maybe just in Alberta or anywhere else. I need to adjust my back piece. It has been annoying the hell out. There we go. That's where it should be. Righteous. The hoodie doesn't help. Boom. Okay. So we're going to get into submissions right away. So for those that are here in the chat, if you don't have any submissions in here, I don't know if you saw me in the chat earlier, but I've submitted 3 through our song request in the chat. That is going to be open until probably the end of the interview, more than likely. We will see. We'll see how far we go. I have my 3 in there. We'll keep them locked and loaded, ready to go. But I think maybe it's time for us to maybe start. I should... Hello, how's it going?
Hey.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
It turned up.
We can.
Perfect. Thank you all for being here and taking time to be on the show. I'm just going to quickly adjust this guy right here. There we go.
That's as loud as she gets, eh?
That's about as loud as I get.
A little bit of traffic will be hearing you.
Here, this is about as loud as I can push it.
Okay, just give me tight then. Maybe I'll relay a question.
That might work.
Or whatever.
Well, for everyone tuning in right now, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Introduce ourselves.
All right.
I'm Brad.
He plays bass. I'm Kyle. I play guitar and sing.
Dan, I play guitar, backups.
Drummer, Stu.
You got Stu behind
I'm
the camera.
relaying messages.
Stu, I just want to say thank you all for taking the time to have this interview and be on the show, guys. I very much appreciate that. Stu, thank you for being the communicator in our situation.
Well.
So just looking at it, it looks like you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, does the Bandcamp have all of your releases or are there more on Spotify?
So that's an old EP that we originally done. It was kind of more like a bit of demo version. And we're actually in the amongst of recording new tracks and with the new lineup right now.
Okay.
So we're trying to get all that up and running and get that out before summer next year. So that's where we kind of are with that.
Awesome. That's cool. Because I was really curious because, you know, some bands we have on, they have a vast vast discography. Other bands, they got 1 or 2. So I was curious if this was a case of like this was just all that was out there or if there was more just on different platforms. With that, what kind of brought the band to come together at the start?
How do we get together?
So Stu and I, we played in separate bands for the longest time there, and we always played shows together. And we've always played shows and whatnot, and we always loved each other's style, and we always talked about like we should just make a side project and have fun and everything. We love old school skate punk and everything like that, and it was something in the works. And once those bands dissolved, Stu and I decided to just, pull the trigger and make it happen. We've been through a bunch of bass players. So actually, Brad is Stu's neighbor. And this guy has been friends with Brad for,
30 years.
Oh, 30 years, yeah.
Oh, dang.
Known as guys since high school.
That's cool. That's cool. So there's a little bit of connection with everyone, with you two on guitar and bass, and then with you guys there on the other end there. That's really cool. forgive me. I do try to like remember names. I also just struggle with them immensely. So my apologies. One thing I've gotten really bad for with running shows is I now refer to people as their stage direction. So like stage left guitar, stage right bass or whatever. Just running festivals, it's so much easier just to be like, where are you? What are you? Cool. I'm going to try to remember that name, but I'll usually be 1 for 4 by the end of the night. So hopefully I'll be better before the end of tonight. I'm very curious though, because like you guys said, there's 30 years between two of you, and then the other two of you have kind of known each other throughout the scene. Have you all kind of individually with, I guess your compadres, had a bit of that musical connection that's kept you together up until this point? Like, have you guys always kind of like jammed or like you guys said, you've always seen each other at shows, but I'm curious with Brad and, oh, I'm so sorry. What is your name again? Dan?
Yeah.
Dan. With Brad and Dan, like you said, you guys have known each other since high school. Have you guys always kind of like been like musical friends, or is this more of just like you guys were just friends and eventually started to jam and hang out and do stuff musically?
Yeah, I guess these guys were in bands like in high school and stuff like that.
Yeah, in high school, shortly after high school, it was, me and a couple of buddies formed a band back in, it would have been 90, I guess. And we jammed together for a few years. And Dan he's a couple years younger than us, but, he had the chops. He'd been playing guitar for a couple of years, and we kind of adopted him. And as we do as we get older, you lose touch with your friends sometimes, and whatnot. And Stu and Kyle here were it's like, hey, do you know anybody who might want to play rhythm or whatever, want to try out? And it's like, I know just the dude. And he came and never really left. So here he is.
That was it. We asked him to show up, and that's kind of been it. And Carl and I, we, as I said earlier, we've been in multiple different bands, always been in the scene and always been friends, but never really been in a band together. And we've always talked about it. And then I guess COVID hit, and then both of our bands dissolved at the same time. And so we got the phone call. It was like, hey, you want to start that project? And that was it. Off we went. So here we are now.
This is probably the most committed band I've ever been in. So like, it was the right choice for sure.
That's really awesome. What I was going to ask after that, because then you kind of answered a bit there, is what's it like now that the four of you are now together working on a project? Because having that history with other people and then being able to collaborate, it's a lot of fun. You feel that in the room when you guys start working together. And I'm curious for you guys, like, obviously you're enjoying it. What's the vibe like for you guys as you're going about writing and just working together?
What's the vibe like now that we're all kind of together? And
I would say that we're kind of leaning more towards metal now. I mean, like, we started out as pretty bare bones skate punk, but like a lot of our influences, especially Dan's shredding now, it just leans a lot more to like hardcore and metal, I think, in my opinion.
Dan's excited about this. He's like, yep, it's happening.
Yeah, we've been adding more, I guess, metal elements into and mixing it up between like thrash and skate punk and metal, and just kind of, I guess the original idea for Kyle and I was we always wanted to have a band that we could fit in with any kind of genre, no matter what it was. We could tune our set to be heavy or like a little bit slower or a bit faster or whatever. So this is kind of how we've developed the band, always been able to like just fit in with every other band that we play with. But now we're kind of getting to that stage where now Dan's in the band, we're kind of all writing and all putting stuff together. It's getting a little bit more heavier and I guess a little bit more metal.
Yeah. Definitely melodic for sure.
That's really cool. That's one thing I personally like about this era of heavy music is you can blend almost anything together. As long as you know how to write it in a song and make things ebb and flow, you can combine so many different styles and influences now, especially in punk and metal, to a point where, the borders, they're very vague at this point. Like you can weave in and out of things. So that must be really cool for you guys to be able to kind of have that vibe of starting with one thing and going into another.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've definitely been able to mix up our style a little bit more and be kind of diversitive and just be able to change kind of I don't know, change out of being like not so punk, I guess. Like we love our punk roots, but we also want to explore new music and push forward and do different stuff. So I think that's where we're kind of going with our sound now. Just kind of pushing forward, pushing the elements, coming up with different stuff and everything that Carl brings to the table. If it's an idea, it's not chucked out the window straight away. It's like, oh, let's try it. Let's give it a shot. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then we move on, you know? So there's no real one, like, hey, it's got to sound like this. It's got to be like this. This is the way we want to write it. But usually with Carl, it's like, here's an idea for a song, throws it to us, and then we're like, oh, shit. Yep, that'll work, or that won't work, or let's change this part. And then that's how we come up with the rest of the stuff. So
That's really cool. And I imagine you guys probably push each other too as musicians with that, having Dan and Brad both having different backgrounds musically and just being a part of the unit and you guys naturally evolving. Actually, I'm curious for Stu and Kyle, what's that been like for you? Just finding your next voice within the project and the next sound for everything.
what's it been like for us to find a new voice like in our project, getting these guys in the band? And
It's been easy. It's been the easiest thing, honestly, because everybody. That's the thing with our band is there's no no's. You know, it's not ideas aren't shut down right away, and the fact that these guys have been playing together for what, like 30 years or so. So off and on for 30 years and stuff. It's like butter. As soon as Dan came into the band, you know. And also, like, Stu and I guess we've been on for, like, what, 2.5, 3 years now? So we've all got history playing music together. So it's honestly so easy to bring a song in and just, like, it become what it's supposed to be. You know? That's what I'm saying is that, like, this band is the best iteration of music that I've had so far in my career. So...
That's awesome. I'm really happy to hear that. Just for you and musicians in general, being able to feel that level of fulfillment and drive in something, especially after going at it for as long as everyone in like this conversation has, that's very powerful. So that's awesome to hear. I'm curious with the decades of experience between the four of you, how much have you guys individually toured? And I'm curious what lessons you may have learned from that you'd want to maybe give to those that are trying to figure that out now in 2023.
how much have we toured and what lessons have we learned from that?
We've better part of the summer we've done a couple trips to the interior and a bunch in Vancouver. Like my second gig with these guys in January was the Cobalt, and it was a sellout. And we played with a bunch of different bands. It was amazing. After not playing music for all through COVID and playing cover bands while my kids grew up, I was walking out on that stage and looking at the sea of people. Man, it was just amazing.
Yeah, it's been really good to get on the road for us, and this is our first big year about getting on the road and learning who we are as a band, and seeing how far we can kind of push it. We've definitely learned a lot of lessons along the way. That's for sure.
Very reserved.
If you ever go on Instagram and check out the Ripcords tour diaries, a lot of those have been exactly what we've gone through. They have a list from what is it? They're up to like 150 or 60 or something now of tour tips of what to do and what not to do, kind of thing. And we've been going through the same things. You learn a lot. Whether it's hotel or booking the ferry or getting to a venue on a certain time, or making sure you got all the right gear, and there's all these little things that add up which you don't think about until you get to the show. So we've learned a lot of those lessons the hard way. But
make sure you call the Big Spoon early in the career, because that fucking sticks, man.
No one wants to be the wooden spoon.
You always want to make sure you call that early, or else you get halfway through and you realize you are the little spoon.
Yeah, no one wants to be that big spoon or little spoon.
That's awesome. So I guess like this band you guys said started just before the pandemic or just like during, and now we've got this iteration. Now I'm curious, you guys say you got a lot of plans for 2024. You got a new album that you're working on. What are the things that you guys are really focused in achieving next year?
What do we have to achieve for next year?
We definitely need to release some new music. Been writing those same 4 songs for the last 3 years, so we definitely have to get something out. Definitely want to get on some festival dates because we've had a few small festies, but we haven't really done any big festivals yet. So that's I think the next step. If we can get at least like 1 or 2 big festivals next year, that would be probably hitting out of the park for us, I think.
Hell yeah. I that would be really cool. I know festival season is always a lot of fun. There's a lot of festivals happening just in Western Canada alone within the underground music scene that are just crazy good times. So I'm hoping you guys get some of those. I do want to talk more about the band and kind of future music, but I also want to talk, I guess, individually as well. So Stu, I guess because you're behind the camera, we'll let you go first. What was it that brought you to wanting to be a musician and play music? And this is gonna be asked to all of you, but I'm curious for you first, Stu. What brought you to the dance?
What brought me to play drums and become a musician?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's a good question. Apparently, according to my mother, at the age of 12, when I asked her for a drum kit, she wasn't surprised. But she said when I was super young, I would just bash around on pots and pans for the hell of it. And so one day I came to her and I said, "Mom, I want a drum kit." And she said, "Okay, let's go and find one." I was just like, "Yes." Like, what? You know what? Mom goes and buys a drum kit at that 12 years of age. So I was like, "Okay, that's great." So then I try to learn how to play the drums the best way I could. And I was always just passionate about music. I think from my older brothers, I have 2 older brothers that were always into music, and they always pushed material to me. And hey, check out this song. Listen to these guys. These guys are awesome. And then just growing up, listening to like different styles of tunes and different music, and then always just wanted to, I guess, play in a band. I got to that age where I got to get a drum kit, and then that was it. It's like, okay, got to start a band. Got to go for it.
That's awesome.
That was the rest of it. Here I am.
In all his glory.
Do you happen to play any other instruments yourself?
Sorry, Nate, what was that?
Do you happen to play any other instruments?
I play a bunch of different instruments. I play guitar and bass. Not the greatest, but I try my best. And it's just something more that I just enjoy playing and just having fun with, really. And actually, I did play in a band for a while, played bass, which was pretty awesome. But I haven't done that for a long time. So drums is more of my kind of passion, and but I do respect having that, being able to know a little bit about guitar and a bit about bass. That I guess it helps in a band where it's like, hey, like this would really sound cool if we did this, or maybe change this to like, drop it down, or like, hey, maybe a chord progression here or something that's going to change the song a little bit. And then, it's good that these guys are willing to listen to that instead of being like, drummer, what do you know? Just go back there and get all the drum jokes,
No, that's awesome. I find knowing a lot of instruments is handy, even if you only dabble in it. Having that at least idea of what they do and what they represent in the sphere of a song, that helps on everyone's dynamic. I created a cheat sheet, so I should be able to remember everyone. Brad, what was it that brought you to want to play music and be a musician?
You turn.
Yeah, how'd you get into this?
Well, how I got into it was my 2 good buddies in junior high. One guy had a set of drums. One guy had been playing guitar for about a year. And then I just kind of went and bought a bass, and we started off with Maiden covers. That's how I said I locked I locked myself in my room basically for about a year and a half, and learned everything I possibly could. Maiden and old Metallica, the thrash stuff, right? And and we played some gigs and stuff like that. And then we all kind of graduated high school, and Dan was always around. So I was like, hey, Dan, let's do something. So we started a band called, what was it, the other guys?
The other guys, Prisoners of Pain.
Yeah, the other guys, Prisoners of Pain, thrash, and the other guys was more of a, punk covers, doing DRI covers and stuff like that. And then, we started writing, doing a little moving around here and there in Parksville and stuff like that. And it's just been, going on from there. I did covers after that because my kids were young and, I wanted to be around and stuff. So did a bunch of cover band stuff, and, I found out that it eats your soul. So, I wanted to come and play some. This is what I wanted to do for my entire musical career. And here I am at 48 years old.
Hey, age is but a number when it comes to performing live music, I find.
Age is just a number. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
That's right.
Do you primarily play bass, or do you dabble in any other instruments?
Do you just play bass, or do you do other stuff?
Oh, I can sing. I play guitar. I can play drums a little bit. Not as adept as our drummer here, Stu. But I've always, I got into singing, doing the cover band stuff, and I just really enjoy it. Certain styles, I'm not a Sweet Home Alabama kind of guy, but give me some Cancer Slug any day, and away we go.
That's awesome. Dan, your turn. What brought you to the dance?
Your turn, buddy.
Yeah, your turn, bud.
My turn.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in the prairies, and from the age of 5, I helped on the piano, and I started doing my Royal Conservatory, and I followed that through up until grade 8, and then Guns N' Roses came around, and I was like, there's no future in playing the piano. Not for me, not for this guy. And I wanted to really play the guitar, because Slash was up there, and I was like, yeah, that's my thing.
Axel plays piano.
And then I got I tortured my parents, and they broke down, and they finally got me a little guitar to practice amp. Same as Brad, same as most kids. They just I got grounded a lot too, so I spent lots of time learning, playing Metallica, Guns N' Roses. And then you start playing with, if you're lucky, you go to school with drummers, and you get together and you start playing some music, and play a show here, play there, whatever. Hook up in a band, play some shows, and it's fun. And I've worked. I'm a heavy duty mechanic. I've worked all over BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and everywhere I went, I've kind of gravitated towards live music. And now that I'm back here on the island, I hooked up with these guys, and these guys are really awesome. They're super fun to hang out with, really welcoming.
You don't have to lie to him. That's okay. It's fine. He's a friend.
Here's your paycheck, man. He can be bought with Timmy's.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not a bad thing to be paid in. That's awesome. Aside from piano or keys, because if you can play piano, you can play a lot of keyed instruments, and guitar, are there any other instruments you've dabbled in?
What other instruments can you play? Can you play any other instruments?
Pardon?
Can you play any other instruments?
Do you know anything else other than piano and guitar?
Oh, yeah. Bass, drums. That's about it. I can still play the keyboards if I wanted to, but it's a lot of work.
Oh, we're using that now for sure. Now that we know.
Actually,
We had no idea about this.
yeah, actually, a quick follow-up. Because I took 3 years of organ, and as much as a lot of the finger movements don't stick with me, a lot of the music notation I learned does. I'm curious, do you find your background in piano helps you as a musician?
Did your background piano help you as being a good guitar player?
Oh, totally. Having the background with all the theory and stuff when I was a kid, it just made life easier down the road. Like now, if I need to fall back on it, I can, instead of reading it and it being totally like Chinese, I can go through it and and so it's it's good. It's learn your stuff.
Awesome. Very good advice. I couldn't agree more. And someone in our chat, Spit of the Sin, another music teacher and artist, agrees as well. Kyle, your turn. What brought you to the dance?
What brought you to the...
So my mom is a country singer, and she's been singing to me pretty much, my whole life. And that's what introduced me to music, was singing Willie Nelson and Dolly Parton and all these country songs and stuff. And she bought me my first guitar when I was, I think, 10 years old. Of course, I destroyed it, but it threw a chord book at me and told me to figure it out. No lessons or anything, but didn't even have an amp. I think I had a old Marantz like stereo that I plugged my guitar into, and learned Dookie inside out, and that's what got me started. I grew up in a pretty small town, and there was always kids that I was jamming with and whatnot, but it's the reason why I moved here, was for music and everything, because Port Alberni was such a small town and nobody really wanted to play the same stuff that I wanted to. So I came here to try to find guys like Stu and Dan and Brad and everything. Not to be some big rock star, but just to find people that are like-minded and want to build something more than playing at the same bar every weekend and go as far as we can go. And that's what fuels me, is these guys and their passion and stuff. It's the reason why I moved here and the reason why I do this.
That's really cool. Especially just being thrown a chord book and being told to figure it out with everything. Same as everyone else. Aside from vocals and guitar, do you dabble in any other instruments?
I'm going to have to jump in and say he dabbles in like nearly every other instrument that I can think of. So he'd be able to tell you.
Yeah. I primarily play guitar and bass, but I play drums, cello, piano. I sing. I fucking dance,
Oh man,
I shake my ass on stage better than most of these guys. So
I love it. Now you said cello, and all I can think of is that one scene from School of Rock, where Jack Black's like, "You see this cello? Put it on its side. Cello, it's a bass."
Pretty much, man.
I love that.
Well, when we started writing some new material, and Carl said, "Hey, I've got an idea for a waltz in a song," and I was like, "Sure, let's try it." Like, it's like, how can we do like a punk heavy waltz? And he said, "I really want to record it with cello," and I was like, "That's awesome! Like, what punk bands bring out a cello, and stuff?" Like, I was like, "Why not? Like, let's try it. Let's see if it works." Like.
In an era of extreme distortion and digital instruments, what is more punk rock than a cello?
Exactly.
I love that. It seems like you guys all have a really cool dynamic with each other and a really cool history individually with music. So I'm very excited to see what you guys do with the next year as a group. I know I've talked a bit about the next album, how it's going to be a bit more metal. Not overall, but it's going to have a bit more of that influence with everything going on. I'm curious, how many tracks are you guys roughly aiming to have on the next release?
How many tracks are we going to roughly have on our next release? That's a good question. We did start off with just a couple of small tracks on this first recording that we did. We'd always like to put a full-length album out, but the way that things go with the music industry now, it just seems like everybody putting out a lot of singles, one single after another, and then those singles basically form an album in the end. So I think that's kind of the route we're going now, with recording is we're kind of backlogging a catalog of music where we can record it and have it sitting there, and we're going to release just singles up until a point where we can release a whole album at the end of releasing all the singles, so it makes one whole album towards the end of it. So I think that's where a lot of the music industry is going, and what we're seeing with a lot of bands that are doing it now. So that seems fitting for us. So
we've got pretty much 2 albums worth of music written. So like it's just at this point learning it all and getting it recorded, which is taking the time.
No, obviously it takes a lot of time to get that all done, but good on you guys for adapting to how things are done now and just trying to make it work for you. I find there's a lot of bands that'll either do that or they'll try to keep repeating older plans that may have worked back in like the 2000s when we could still sell CDs on a regular basis. So seeing that adjustment, especially in like a punk band, is it's cool to see. It shows that across the underground, the music scenes are evolving. And actually with that, that's a good one to ask you guys. What have you guys noticed within your own scene in regards to how things have been evolving over the past few years?
what have we done in our own scene that's been changing and evolving in the past few years?
Lack of venues. Yeah, it's a big one down here shut down during COVID. It didn't reopen, and yeah, it's getting tight.
That's tough for live bands right now. It seems like everybody wants to book dance music and whatnot, which is it's freaking awesome and everything like that. But it feels like bands are kind of getting shuffled off, and maybe a way of the past or whatever. But I'm kind of hoping that it brings back the scene of house parties and doing legions and all ages shows and backyard shows and stuff. I'm kind of hoping that's the way things go, because that's how I did it back in my small town. Was just like, we rented out a church and made it our own, right? So
Egg Raiders.
yeah.
The DIY punk scene, the beauty of it being DIY is, I mean, it never truly dies. So
No, I don't think it ever does really die off. I know I think we've seen a lot of that over the past year, especially when COVID hit. It was like, what do? There's no shows, so let's just go back to the way we did it. Go underground. Let's find basements. Let's find people that want to play house shows, and find a small hall or whatever, and just go for it. Make it what it is. So I think that's the beauty about kind of punk rock. And what we do is we can play anywhere, anytime, and not have to have a whole huge setup behind us. Just
hell yeah.
A couple of microphones and a little PA, and off we go. We do the rest.
Hell yeah. I hope you guys are able to have some killer just underground shows. There's a vibe about that, and I personally feel all ages shows have been one of the things lacking in the overall music scene in general. So maybe they'll take a bit more of that old school DIY stuff to bring that back. I got 2 more questions for you guys. They're more fun, they're more whimsical, but they're going to be, it's 2 questions, but it's for each of you because everyone can have different answers for it. The more serious of the 2 is, if you had one dream gig that you could just make happen, what would it be?
Yeah, one dream gig. What would it be?
Of course, Wembley. No, just with a bunch of, if I could play with a bunch of my idols that I grew up with, that would be amazing to me.
Like who?
Like who?
Misfits maybe, or
Yeah, like early 80s Misfits.
yeah.
Cancer Slug, Bath. Love to play with those guys. Of course, just being around Iron Maiden and, being inadequate with Steve Harris standing there right there watching me, that would be amazing. But those are about the main ones.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool if they could break us on tour.
Yeah.
That would be dope.
For
Maybe
me,
it'd be fun.
probably, let's say, lineup would be Thrice, Taking Back Sunday, and Alkaline Trio and us. Let's go.
Oh, dude, Thrice. That is one of the
Oh, okay.
few bands where
I think I'm just gonna go on tour with Britney Spears.
Yeah.
I think that'll do me.
Yeah.
Do it. Hey, you know what? Do
I'll
all of them
deliver
in one tour. Just select dates for all of them. You're the only consistent. All right. My other one, and this is a bit more of a one school one. You're all stranded on an island. You can only have 2 albums each. Which albums are you bringing with you?
Stranded on an island. You only got 2 albums. Which ones would they be?
Well, for me, one would be probably the first Iron Maiden album, and then probably Alabama Bloodbath from Cancer Slug.
What's the question? Our favorite album?
You're on an island. You get two albums to listen to forever. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Cannibal Corpse. Fetus. Oh yeah, Cannibal Corpse. Their first album, and then the second album, I'm gonna have to go with some Dayglow Abortions. 2 Dogs Fucking.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
And I'd probably say Artist in the Ambulance by Thrice and Black Flag Damaged.
Those are solid
I think I'm
choices
just
too.
gonna do myself in before all that happens.
I'm
Just gotta jump ship.
To do it. No, let's hear it.
Good question. I don't know. I can't really think of anything right now. Actually, could have drawn that blank. I think I'd probably just trade it in for a case of beer and see how far I get.
I love it. I absolutely love it. You guys have been a absolute blast. I want to say again, thank you all for taking the time to be on the show. I am sorry that I can't throw my voice loud enough to get to all of you as loud as I wish I could. But I wish you guys the best in 2024. Once you guys get that album out and get it ready, please submit it. I would love to hear what the next version of Dead Rights is. Because if you guys are evolving, I feel maybe those 4 tracks aren't quite, I guess, the best depiction of where you guys are at now. And I'm curious what that next version is going to be. I'm forgetting one thing. There's one question I like to ask everyone, and I can't believe I almost forgot it. Every scene, whether it's falling apart and small or large with a lot of support, has unsung heroes. And I'm curious, who are individuals in your scene that you feel don't get a shout out usually that you want to give a shout out now?
Who was our unsung heroes in our scene? You want to give a shout out to?
Fucking John Carlo.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so he does photography here in Victoria for free for bands that he just loves. You know, he's been such a huge part of this scene here, and such a sweetheart. I went through like a major bout of depression for a while, and he was like one of the first guys that fucking lifted me up. So huge shout out to John. Ben Whitrock, our guy who does sound at our local venue here, plays in a band called Razor Voice, and just a sweetheart, treats us really good, and always makes sure our sound is everybody's sound is just top notch. Anybody in particular you guys think of?
I'd say the Phoenix for keeping it alive.
Yeah,
really.
Jenny at the Phoenix there, she's the one who runs our local venue there, and one of the only venues that supports punk rock and metal in Victoria there. So huge shout out to the Phoenix here. Stu's brother for letting us practice at his workplace, because without him we'd be paying an arm and a leg here. So, so fucking Chris, thank you so much.
That's awesome. Thank you for shouting them out. Once this interview gets re-uploaded, I'm contemplating, I'm going to try to get the guys to make a compilation of all the shout outs, because those people help make the scenes work. Like you said, there's someone that's giving people the opportunity to even have a stage when there's not a lot out there for them. So huge shout outs to everyone involved, and shout outs to you guys again for just keeping punk rock alive, keeping that DIY just vibe going, positive vibes, being solid people. You guys all seem like you're really dope people. If you ever end up in my neck of the woods or vice versa, would love to hang out, check you guys out. It sounds like it would just be a fun time.
Awesome. No, really appreciate Nate, and we appreciate you having us on the show. And yeah, stay tuned for more to come from us, because I think this is just only the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Nate, for doing what you do, man. Really appreciate it.
yeah, well,
100% done. Thank you so much.
talk about unsung heroes.
That's right.
You guys.
Yeah.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you again for making time, especially getting all together. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, a great rest of 2023, and a kick-ass 2024. And now we get to hit this sound effect just to be like,
Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Appreciate it,
Get
bro.
well soon, Megan.
much love, everyone. You enjoy yourselves. Take care. And thank you again. Dead Rights, everybody. Dead Rights. Solid group of individuals, solid group of chaps.